Dear students, myself Bikramjit Singh, working as Professor and Head of Civil Engineering Department at Khalsa College of Engineering and Technology, Amritsar. Today's lecture is on compass surveying, and all the queries which will be in the minds of all the students, we will deal it after the lecture. So note down your queries and I will answer all the queries after finishing my lecture. So let's start with the compass surveying. The first point which comes into the mind is why we are using compass for surveying or making a map or plan. So the use of the equipment is that it is an angle measuring equipment which measures angle and bearing of a line. So that's why we are using the compass in making a map or plan in surveying. Now comes the various learning objectives while doing this chapter. The first is to know the various things about the compass surveying. Then there are two types of compass. First is prismatic compass, then there is surveyor's compass, and the fourth objective is setting of the prismatic compass, how the equipment is set up and how we measure the angle, the various construction parts and the working method. So first of all, we will get some knowledge about the compass surveying. So compass surveying is a type of surveying in which the directions of survey lines are determined with the help of magnetic compass. The length of the survey lines are measured with the tape or chain. The compass is generally used to run a traverse line. So from this definition, it is very clear that the compass is used for measuring a bearing of a line or measuring the angle between the two lines, and the length of the line is measured with the help of chain or tape. The compass is generally used to run a traverse line. So the last point is elaborated in a way that while doing chain surveying, we adopt the principle triangulation. So chain surveying is based on triangulation. So when the field is large or we have to cover a large area and make a map or plan of that area, then there can be various obstacles in that area. So then triangulation is not possible. Then we adopt the method traversing, meaning joining of the various lines, and then we measure the bearing and the angle between the various lines to complete that traverse. So there come the role of the last point of the compass survey. Then we go for the next point, principle of compass survey. So a freely suspended magnetic needle always lies in the north-south direction. So compass survey is based on this principle that when we suspend a magnetic needle, it will automatically align itself in the north-south direction of the earth. So based on this principle, the prismatic compass and the surveyor's compass were made and are used till date. The various uses of compass surveying are: it is used where speed is more important than accuracy. Hence, it is used for preliminary survey work such as road, railways, military, etc. Accuracy of reading depends on local attraction of that site. So, it is very clear from the use of the compass survey that this is not very accurate equipment because the limitations are there. The last line we will read it again. Accuracy of readings depends upon the local attraction of that site. It means that there should not be any local attraction where we are working, so that The local attraction should not attract our compass, and the reading can be a faulty reading. Now we comes to the next point, various types of compass. There are two forms of compass in common use. The first compass is prismatic compass and the second compass is surveyor's compass. The prismatic compass consists of a cylindrical metal box of 8 cm to 12 cm diameter as shown in the picture, and the figure which consists of the various parts of the prismatic compass is now in front of us. The prismatic compass consists of first a cylindrical metal box, second point is a pivot, then third point a lifting pin or lifting lever, fourth a magnetic needle, fifth a graduated ring, sixth a prism, seventh object vane, then eighth eye vane, glass cover, sunglasses, reflecting mirror and brake pin. So I will show you also the prismatic compass and surveyor compass which are lying in front of me also, and I will explain the various parts which we have discussed now. So friend, this is prismatic compass and this is the surveyor's compass. So now we have just now learned the various parts of the prismatic compass, and I will show you here. This is the eye vane, this is the object vane, this is the crosshair in the object vane, this is the graduated circle. The various readings are unmarked or graduated on the circle with a difference of half a degree, and this strip gives the direction. Beneath the strip is a magnetic needle, and when we freely suspend this compass or fix it on a tripod stand, so it takes the shape. So this is the north, so this needle will give the direction of the earth north to us, and the various graduation will give the angle between the two lines or the bearing of any line. Then this is the prism, it is inclined at a 45-degree angle. The function of the prism is to magnify the angle which we are reading and to erect the reading in front of us. So it has two functions, it magnifies the reading and the inverted reading is erected in front of the eye. There are two mirrors. These are the two glasses, one is in the red shape, the other one is in a dark green shape. So these are used when we are seeing from the prism or the eyelid. Then these glasses will protect from the ultraviolet rays. So they serve as the normal eyeglasses, as a human being wore the normal eyeglass to protect the eyes from the ultraviolet rays. Similarly, these glasses protect the person who is seeing from here so that he can note down the reading properly and accurately. Then there is a brake pin. This is the brake pin. This is the brake pin. and the function of the brake pin is when we have to go for taking a reading, then we should press the brake pin, which will put a brake on the oscillation of the graduated circle so that a proper and accurate reading can be noted down. Similarly, in surveyor's compass, the graduations are marked on a graduated circle, and this is the point which gives the direction of the earth north, and this point gives the direction of the south. The graduated ring is divided into 4 parts in case of surveyor's compass, or I can say it is divided into 4 quadrants. So first quadrant, then second, and then third, and then fourth. So we will learn about these quadrants and the working of the surveyor's compass later on in the slides. So it was just an introduction to the various equipments. Now coming to the point. So the prismatic compass, in the center of the compass, it consists of a pivot which carrying a magnetic needle attached to the graduated aluminum ring with the help of an agitated cap. So the graduated ring and the magnetic needle both are connected by a pivot, so which is shown in the figure, and the matching is done with the magnetic compass which we have seen just now. The ring is graduated to a half a degree and is ready by a reflected prism. Prism cap protect the prism from dust, moisture, etc. The opposite side of the prism is the object vane, and it is carrying a horsehair with which an object can be bisected. The eye is applied through eye vein. So it gives us the knowledge that a person will be seeing from the eye vein towards the object vein and then bisect the object with the help of the crosshair or the horsehair, and the prism will help in reading the graduated circle and getting an accurate reading. The angular readings can be observed directly by the eye through the prism also. The readings can be made clearly by adjusting the prism to the eyesight by the focusing screw. So this focusing screw helps in focusing the prism, as every person has a different eyesight, so it helps in getting a clear reading. The prismatic compass is protected by a glass cover. The needle is lifting by using lifting lever. By pressing a lifting pin, the oscillation of the needle stops by using brake pin. So when I showed you the prismatic compass, the function of the brake pin was also made clear. Then that when we press the pin, the oscillation of the graduated circles comes to halt, and it helps in getting the reading clearly and accurately. Then there is a reflecting mirror. This mirror helps to take bearing of a very high and very low objects. A pair of sunglasses helps to take reading during heavy sun glare. So there are 2 types of mirror in the prismatic compass. The one mirror is attached to the object vane, and this mirror helps in taking bearing of very high and very low objects. So the mirror helps in getting the image of the object, and it is bisected by the crosshair, and then we go for the reading. Similarly, there are 2 sunglasses. When I showed you, the one was red in color, the other was dark green. So these sunglasses helps and protects the eye from the direct sun glare or UV rays. A metal cover fits over the glass cover as well as the object when the compass is not in use. The compass is placed over the tripod stand. So this picture or this slide shows us how the equipment looks like when it is set up on a tripod stand. In the prismatic compass, graduations are marked on the ring in the clockwise direction with 0 degree or 360 degree at south end of the needle. 90 degree is marked at the west, 180 degree at north and 270 degree at east. The figures are written upside down. So the last line is to be focused. The figures are written upside down. So that's the one thing also where prism comes into the help, and it makes the picture erected in front of the eye and make it clear while reading. Now coming to point again, that in prismatic compass the graduations are marked from 0 degree up to 360 degree. So that's why it is also known as whole circle bearing compass, because the whole circle gets completed starting from 0 degree and ending with 360 degree. So while we are getting a reading from prismatic compass, the angle or bearing can be anything lies between 0 degree up to 360 degree. Whereas in surveyor's compass, the angles are marked in 4 quadrants. So the maximum value of the angle will be lying between 0 degree up to 90 degree. The greatest advantage of prismatic compass is both sighting the object as well as reading circle simultaneously without changing the position of the eye. So this point again gives us a great advantage of using prismatic compass, because as done with the earlier equipments, reading was taken at a different point and object was sighted as a different point of time. But here both the things are done simultaneously. We sight the ranging rod, and after bisecting the ranging rod properly with the horsehair, we note down the reading from the prism. So both the steps are done simultaneously. So this slide shows how the bearing is noted down. So it's just an example showing the 330 degree at the observer's end under the prism, that is at south end. So it is an angle starting from north up to the line. So from 0 degree from north and then moving up to the line, it covers 330 degree. Now coming to the surveyor's compass, it is similar to prismatic compass except with the following modification. The graduated ring is directly attached to the circular box and not with the magnetic needle. The magnetic needle floats freely over the pivot. No prism is attached to the eye vein, and it is having a narrow vertical slit. Readings are taken directly with the naked eye against the north end of the needle. The angle is graduated in quadranted system of having 0 degree at north and south ends, 90 degree at east and west end. So the various differences of the surveyor's compass with the prismatic compass are mentioned here. The first one is, we will repeat again, the graduated ring is directly attached to the circular box and not with the magnetic needle, whereas in prismatic compass the graduated circle and the magnetic needle strip were both attached and made a one unit, whereas in surveyor's compass these are the two units. So needle is a different unit and graduated circle is a different unit. The magnetic needle floats freely over the pivot. No prism is attached to the eye vein and it is having a narrow vertical slit. So in surveyor's compass there is no prism, whereas in prismatic compass there is a prism attached on the eye vein which helps in taking the reading. Readings are taken directly with naked eye against the north end of the needle in the surveyor compass. The angle is graduated in quadrantal system. So I have explained it earlier also that in surveyor's compass we divide the graduation in 4 quadrants. Then reading is taken from the line whether it is near to north or near to south end. Now coming to the setting of the prismatic compass. So this is also one of the important question when we are learning surveying and any chapter, whether it is theodolite surveying, tachometric surveying, plane table surveying and compass surveying. This question is common in all the chapters. From common I mean setting of the any equipment which we are learning or reading can come into the exams. So we must focus and learn the setting of all the equipments on which our chapter and syllabus is based. The prismatic compass is required to be temporarily set over the station at which the bearing of the survey line required to be measured. It is basically a 2 or 3 step procedure. The first step is centering of the equipment. The second step is leveling of the equipment. The third step is focusing of the equipment. So when we will be following these 3 steps, then we can say that we have temporarily adjusted the compass. The first step is centering. A compass is set so that its center lies exactly above the station by suspending a plumb bob from the center point. If the conical end of the plumb bob lies exactly over the station on the ground, the compass is considered to be exactly centered. If not, then the legs of the tripod are adjusted in position by moving one leg first and then simultaneously moving other 2 legs in perpendicular direction to the first movement. In this way, the centering is achieved. If the plumb bob is not available, a small piece of stone or pebble can be used for centering. So, by the process of centering, we mean that the point on the ground, like the point, let the point be A, the A point on the ground and the center of the compass must be in a straight perpendicular line. So when we throw a pebble from the center of the compass, then it should fall directly over A. So this was the oldest method of centering any equipment with the stone. Nowadays we use plumb bob, and plumb bob helps in achieving the centering to a great accuracy. And in nowadays equipment, the optical method is also used. The second step is leveling. The compass is required to be leveled so that aluminum ring is in the horizontal plane. The leveling can be checked by a spirit level or by rolling a pin on compass box If not, the level can be adjusted by moving the legs of tripod. So leveling is a very important second step in setting of the equipment, and this step can be achieved by using two instruments, I can say. The first is spirit level. So we will place the spirit level on the glass cover of the compass, and if the bubbles moves on one side or the other, it means that our compass is not properly leveled, and we will push or pull the tripod leg so that the bubble comes to the center. And this process is repeated by putting the spirit level in two directions, and the second direction must be perpendicular to the first direction. This can also be achieved with the help of a rolling pin or rolling pencil placed on the compass, and if the pencil or pin rolls down toward the other side, it means our compass is not properly leveled. It is not in a horizontal direction. So again, the help of the tripod will be taken. The three legs will be adjusted so that the compass is horizontally leveled. Then comes the third step, focusing of the prism. So the prism is focused, it means it is checked that it is unlocked from the bottom, and the bottom part is properly cleaned from dust so that we can get a clear view of the reading. And there is a focusing screw also, which adjusts the line of sight with the person's eyesight working, and we move the screw until we see the reading in a clear way. Now the second part of the compass surveying comes, and in this part we will be learning about the bearing, various meridians, and whole circle bearing, quadrantal bearing, why we say prismatic compass is a whole circle bearing system, whereas surveyor compass is a quadrantal bearing system. Then comes fore bearing and back bearing, and the last point will be calculation of angles from the various lines. We will be also doing some numerical practice in the last 2 or 3 points, starting from whole circle bearing and converting them to the reduced bearing. So now coming to the point, what we understand by the term bearing of a line. The bearing of a line is the horizontal angle which the line makes with some reference direction or meridian. So it is again said it is a horizontal angle which any line, let the line be AB, makes with the north direction of the earth. So from the figure, the dotted red line is a survey line, and the earth north is marked with capital N. The angle between these two lines is known as bearing. So it is not mentioned the angle, it is mentioned as bearing because angle is always between the two lines, whereas bearing is between one line and the other is a direction, vector or a reference line. Then comes meridian. The meridian or reference direction employed in surveying can be of 3 types: or true meridian, or magnetic meridian, an arbitrary or assumed meridian. True meridian, the reference line which passes through the geographical North Pole and the geographical South Pole, is known as true meridian. It is also known as azimuth. So, in the figure, Earth is shown in a sphere shape or spheroid shape, and north south is one line and east west is another line. So the Earth north south line is known as true meridian. And in the globe on the right side figure, the various angles are marked, and the Earth in the middle is cut by equator, and north and south line are joined, and it is known as a meridian. So both sides angles are shown starting from 0 degree, and then 20 degree, then 40 degree, then 60 degree. True bearing, the horizontal angle between a line and the true meridian is called true bearing of a line. It is also called azimuth. So first we learned about the true meridian, and then comes that any survey line making an angle with the true meridian is known as true bearing. So in the figure it is shown AB is a survey line, and true north is shown with the arrow, and the angle between the two is known as true bearing. Whereas a second line and marked MN, capital MN, mean magnetic north, and the same survey line making an angle with the magnetic north, it is known as magnetic bearing. So the angle AB line makes with the true north gives true bearing. The angle AB line makes with magnetic north gives magnetic bearing. So now we will be reading the definition of magnetic meridian. The direction indicated by a freely suspended magnetic needle unaffected by local attraction is called the magnetic meridian or magnetic north-south line of the Earth. So this definition says that a freely suspended magnet aligns itself toward the Earth's magnetic north-south line, because Earth's magnetic north-south line is different from the Earth's geographical north-south line, which is shown in the above figure. Earth's geographical north-south line is known as true meridian, and Earth's magnetic north-south line is known as magnetic meridian. Then comes the point again, what do we understand by magnetic bearing? The horizontal angle which any survey line makes with magnetic meridian is called magnetic bearing or bearing of that line. So in the figure it is shown our survey line is then marked as AB, and magnetic meridian is and marked as capital MN. The angle made by the survey line AB with MN is known as magnetic bearing. Then comes the third term, arbitrary meridian. Arbitrary meridian or an assumed meridian or is any convenient direction toward a permanent mark or signal such as a church spire or top of a chimney. Such meridians are used to determine the relative position of the lines in a small area. So, arbitrary meridian, as the name itself suggests, it is arbitrary. We can assume any line on any important point in the city, like church or any mosque, as our point and start measuring the angles from there. If any provision is not available, then we go for arbitrary meridian. Then comes arbitrary bearing. Arbitrary bearing of a line is the horizontal angle which it makes with the arbitrary meridian is called arbitrary bearing of a line. So earlier also we have studied above the two bearings, magnetic bearing and true bearing. Now comes the third bearing, arbitrary bearing. So it is also similar as we studied the two bearing above, that our survey line makes an angle with the arbitrary meridian. That angle is known as arbitrary bearing. So let's finish it out, the meridians. The meridian or reference direction employed in surveying may be a true meridian. We have studied that. Of magnetic meridian, we have also studied that. The third is an arbitrary or assumed meridian. We have also studied that. The true meridian is usually employed in geodetic survey, while magnetic meridian is used in plane survey. So this is a very important point here, which was not earlier available in a earlier lecture. So it says that true meridian is usually employed in geodetic survey. So here comes another term, geodetic survey, while the magnetic meridian is used in plane survey. So here we will throw some light on this plane survey and geodetic survey. Plane survey is when we assume the land to be plane and we neglect the curvature of the earth. And when large surveying is done, we can say more than 250 kilometer, then the curvature of the earth is taken into account, and then if surveying is done, it is known as geodetic surveying. So it shows if large surveying is done, then true meridian is usually employed in geodetic surveying, whereas magnetic meridian is usually used in plane surveying. Then comes the definition, magnetic declination. The horizontal angle between the magnetic meridian and the true meridian is known as magnetic declination. So very simple definition, the angle between the true meridian and magnetic meridian of earth is known as magnetic declination. Now designation of magnetic bearing, or we can say there are two types of magnetic bearing. First one is known as whole circle bearing. Second one is known as quadrantal bearing. Whole circle bearing and quadrantal bearing. By whole circle bearing, we mean the magnetic bearing of a line measured clockwise from north pole towards the line is known as whole circle bearing. Its value lies between 0 degree up to 360 degree. So, I will explain after reading the quadrantal bearing. Let's first read the two definitions. Quadrantal bearing means the magnetic bearing of a line measured clockwise or anti-clockwise from North Pole or South Pole, whichever is nearer to the survey line toward the east or west is known as quadrantal bearing. This system consists of four quadrants: northeast, southeast, northwest, southwest. The value of any angle lies between 0 degree to 90 degree. Now coming to the whole circle bearing and explaining it a little bit more. In the figure, four lines are shown. First line is AB, the second is AC, then the third is AD, and then AF. Along the four survey lines, the four directions are also shown: north, south, east, west. So if the line is in the first quadrant, so this line AB makes an angle theta 1 with the north. This is whole circle bearing. So this angle theta 1 is known as whole circle bearing, and in whole circle bearing, so the reading starts always from the north. So north is considered as a 0 degree reference point, and from 0 degree up to the line AB we have covered theta 1. The angle is theta 1. Similarly, the line lies in the second quadrant is AC, and the angle measuring starts from the north direction up to the line AC. This angle is theta 2. Similarly, the third line lies in the third quadrant, the third line AD, and the angle measuring will start from north, the north direction of the earth, and up to the line AD. The angle is marked theta 3. Similarly, when the line lies in the fourth quadrant, let it be AF, the angle measuring starts from north up to the line AF, and the angle is theta 4 in whole circle bearing system. So we must note in this system that if the angle or the line is very close to the north and lies in the fourth quadrant, then we are very near to converting a circle or covering a circle. So all the angles start from north and the measurement goes in the clockwise direction, starting from 0 degree at the north and ending up to the 360 degree, that is also a north point. So covering the whole circle. That's why it is named as whole circle bearing system. Now comes to the quadrantal bearing system. In quadrantal bearing system, the definition says that any line lies in the any quadrant, it should be either near to north or either near to south. So it means the measurement of the angle will start from north or south, and first step is to note down that the line lies in which quadrant, and it is either near to north or either near to south. For example, if the line is in the first quadrant, so it is marked first and the line is AB. The quadrant is northeast. So if the line is in the first quadrant, it will be near to the north. As from north, the angle can be, let us say, 30 degree or 40 degree, and if we measure the angle from south, we have to cover the second quadrant, it means the angle will be greater than 90 degree, and then goes to the AB line. So it is more far. So it clearly shows that more than 90 degree we have to cover, and then it shows that the line in the first quadrant is nearer to the north direction. Similarly, if the line is in the second quadrant, then it is nearer to the south direction. So measurement will start from south. That's why the angle beta starts from south and goes toward southeast direction. So whenever we have to write an angle in quadrantal bearing system, we have to write the direction along with the value of the angle. The value of the angle is written in the middle, and on both sides the direction is mentioned. Like now we are in the second quadrant, our line is AC and our angle is beta. So the measurement of beta starts from south direction and it goes toward east. So the angle will be written as south beta east. Similarly, when the line is in the third quadrant, it will be line AD. It will be line AD, and when the line will be in the third quadrant, it will be nearer to the south side. So the measurement of the angle starts from south and goes toward the line AD. So let it be, it is theta. So it will be written as south theta west, because the direction of the movement is from measurement is from south toward the west. So when the line will be in the fourth quadrant, let the line be AF as shown in the figure. Then this line is nearer to north. So the measurement will start from north direction up to the line AF. Let the angle will be phi. So it will be written north phi west. So the thumb rule is, if the line is in the first and fourth quadrant, then the measurement of the angle will start from north, or we say the line is nearer to north. And if the line is in the second and fourth quadrant, then the measurement will start from south, or we say the line is nearer to south. These are the basic definition of quadrantal bearing and whole circle bearing system. Then comes to the another definition, that is reduced bearing. So what we understand by the term reduced bearing, when the whole circle bearing exceeds 90 degree, then it is to be converted or reduced to quadrantal bearing system, which has the same numerical values of the trigonometrical function, is known as reduced bearing. So summing it up, when we convert whole circle bearing to quadrantal bearing system, it is known as reduced bearing system. So there are two types of conversion. The first one is when we convert whole circle bearing system into quadrantal bearing system. The second one is when an angle in quadrantal bearing system is converted into whole circle bearing system. So both the conversions have the rule, and if we can draw the figures, then we can understand it in a more conceptual way. So I guide you to draw a figure whenever you are learning these rules, not to cram the rules, just draw the figure and see how this rule has been given. So the application of the rule will be more clear and it will not be forgotten ever. So first step is conversion of whole circle bearing system into reduced bearing system. So in this step, if the line is in the first quadrant, or we say in the case 1, when whole circle bearing system is lies between 0 to 90 degree, then the rule of reduced bearing says that the angle, value of the angle which is a whole circle bearing, the same value is for the reduced bearing. So nothing changes in the first quadrant. So let me explain. If the angle is 30 degree in the whole circle bearing system, then the rule says that in quadrantal bearing system this is the same value, that the angle will be 30 degree in the reduced bearing system. The only change is we have to put the direction when we convert from whole circle bearing system to quadrantal bearing system. So the first quadrant gives us the direction northeast, so it will come along north 30 degree east. Similarly, the second case, when the line lies in the second quadrant and the value of the angle is between 90 to 180. So let us assume that it is 120 degree. Then the rule says if the whole circle bearing angle is equal to 120 degree, then the conversion rule says reduced bearing is equal to 180 degree minus whole circle bearing. It means 180 degree minus 120. So the angle will be 60 degree. And we have to apply the direction, as we are converting whole circle bearing into quadrantal bearing. So the direction in the second quadrant, as explained earlier also, it is southeast. So the answer will be south 60 degree east. So if the angle is 120 degree in whole circle bearing system and we are converting it into quadrantal bearing system, the answer will be south 60 degree east. Now comes the third quadrant or third case, when the line lies in the third quadrant, that is the angle is from 180 degree up to 270 degree. So let it be that whole circle bearing angle is 220 degree and it lies between 180 and 270. Then the rule of conversion says reduced bearing is equal to whole circle bearing minus 180 degree. So in this case it means reduced bearing is equal to 220 degree minus 180. So quadrantal bearing system says the value of the angle is 40 degree and we have to apply the direction in the third quadrant. The direction says the direction will be from south towards west. So the answer will be south 40 degree west. So when the line is in the third quadrant, then we have to subtract 180 degree from the whole circle bearing system. And when the line was in the second quadrant, then we have to subtract the angle from 180 degree to get quadrantal bearing angle, to get an angle in quadrantal bearing system. Along with that, we have to apply the direction in which the line lies. So the last case is when the line lies in the fourth quadrant. Or we can say when the whole circle bearing is between 270 degree to 360 degree. So let us assume that the whole circle bearing angle is equal to 300 degree. Then the conversion rule says that reduced bearing is equal to 360 degree minus whole circle bearing. So if the angle is 300 degree, then 360 minus 300 means 60 degree will be the answer in quadrantal bearing system, and now we have to apply the direction only. Now the line is in the fourth quadrant, so the direction is northwest. So the answer in quadrantal bearing will be north 60 degree west. So I sums up it again. If the line is in the first and fourth quadrant, it is nearer to north. We take the direction from north. And if the line is in the second and third quadrant, it is nearer to south. So the direction goes from southeast to southwest. Whereas in the earlier case, the direction goes from northeast to northwest. So this way we can convert whole circle bearing system into quadrantal bearing system, and this conversion is known as reduced bearing. Before going for the various examples in which we will be converting some angles from whole circle bearing to quadrantal bearing, and then from vice versa quadrantal bearing system to whole circle bearing, let us learn some basic points about the degrees and the conversion rules. So while doing addition or subtraction in various angles, it should be noted down that 1 degree is equal to 60 minutes in compass rowing, and 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. So 1 degree is equal to 60 minutes. So there is a 1 inverted comma, it indicates minutes, 2 inverted comma, it indicates seconds. So every minute has 60 seconds. So these are nearly similar to while we are reading a clock. So in the slide, the example is shown 80 degree plus 60 degree 30 minutes. It is equal to 140 degree 30 minutes. While doing subtraction, when we will subtracting 60 degree 30 minutes from 80 degree, it should be taken care of. Here lies the learning point, that we will be converting 80 degree into 79 degree 60 minute, and then we will be putting the figure which we want to subtract from 80 degree, that is 60 degree 30 minutes, and then the subtraction will take place. From 60 minutes we will subtract 30 minutes, the answer will be 30 minutes. Then 60 degree will be subtracted from 79 degree, then the answer will be 19 degree. So the answer is 19 degree 30 minutes. So it's always advisable, whenever we have to subtract anything from whole circle values like 80 degree, then convert that 80 degree into degrees and minutes, and then subtract the second figure which is given in degrees and minutes. Now comes our first example. Convert the following whole circle bearing to quadrantal bearing. The first one is 12 degree 30 minutes. The second one is 160 degree 30 minutes. Third is 210 degree 30 minutes. 285 degree 30 minutes. So dear students, solve this example, and after solving this example, I will be taking all your queries whichever you have in this lecture and in these first two examples. Second example is convert the following whole circle bearing to quadrantal bearing. The first angle is 12 degree 30 minutes. Second is 160 degree 30 minutes. Third is 210 degree 30 minutes. Fourth is 25 degree 30 minutes. So solve it and we will meet after a break.